Thunder and lightning, it's getting exciting. Sergey Lazarev has won Best Staging of Eurovision 2016. Denise, our readers have named Sergey Lazarev as the artist with the best staging of Eurovision 2016. He beat Armenia's Iveta Mukuchyan, Ukraine's Jamala, Australia's Dami Im, Iceland's Greta Salóme, and Belarus's Ivan. What do you think?
The thing is with Sergey and the staging, I mean, it was good, of course. They thought about it, they had a great idea in mind, and I loved when those little cubes came out. And
Did you say
he
cubes?
was stepping on it. Cubes! It's like little cubes, like ice cubes.
Gotcha. That was nasty.
Those things out of the wall, let's say it like that. When they came out, I mean, it looked awesome, and especially when he was laying down and all the galaxy things, and well, it looked great, absolutely. So I agree that it was really good, but for me, there were two performances and two stagings that gave me goosebumps, and those were the number 2 and the number 3 in our poll. So Iveta and Jamala. For me, they were even better. I mean, Sergey was good, but those two, well, that was incredible. That was so good and so unexpected. We haven't seen something like that before, and that's why it was so good. And I don't want to repeat what everyone was saying about Sergey's performance. We all know. So we had the feeling that we saw it before, and I think that's why we were a little disappointed. But still, it was good, so it is deserved at least in our poll, but for me it would be the 3rd instead of 1st.
Yeah, I think the thing with Sergey's staging is that he had about 20 different ideas thrown into the one performance, and if he'd focused on one, because each aspect had its merits, and if he just focused on one and been like, okay, I'm just going to do the cubes, or I'm just going to have backing dancers, or I'm just going to have wings, and I'm going to develop my story from that, instead of throwing everything at it, because even when we saw it for the first time, we were disappointed and we were underwhelmed. And granted, when the live audience was added and he wasn't falling off his box and etc., it did come together and it did have a wow factor and it blew people away, but it wasn't coherent and it was a bit messy because there was too much going on. So while I think he deserves to be in the top 6, I don't think he deserves top spot. And I'd agree with Denise that Armenia and Ukraine had much simpler staging, but it was much more effective because those two songs, people weren't really putting them down as contenders beforehand. They were maybe top 10 contenders, but nobody put them down as winners. And after the staging, everybody was putting them up in their top 3.
Yes, we often say you can win Eurovision in a moment, and Jamala's tree was that moment. That is amazing. I see it sprouting. I'm hoping that at Eurovision 2017, that's a huge part of their theme. Like, they have trees, like, yeah, I can just see it being amazing. The graphics, like, when everyone comes out, a tree comes up with the name of the country. It's gonna slay. Yes, Armenia and Ukraine were definitely up there on my list of winners, although I would give the edge to Australia's Dami Im. I loved this from the very first moment. The 3 of us watched it together, actually, at Mirror Club before we gave our little chat, and it was so... my mouth fell to the floor. It was very modern looking, like woman on plinth with cities singing about loneliness. She looked like an unhinged bride showing off her legs in that kind of futuristic dress. This was expensive, it was amazing, but this is just such a tough category, because I think all 6 acts who got nominated for the Vision Music Award for Best Staging truly deserve to be there. What do you guys think of Greta Salóme finishing in 5th? There was so much hype before Eurovision, and it just went off a cliff.
I don't know, it was... everyone was having high expectations, and for everyone she was the one, oh, she will qualify for sure, but seeing all the others perform and what a great ideas they were having and everything, for me she wasn't even in my top 10 anymore, so she fell down and she was forgotten. And I think that it's what happened with a lot of people at home who should vote for her. And that's also with the staging. I mean, it was good, but there were so many ideas that were way, way better. And I think that's the reason why.
I think it's down to maybe two things. One was not that the staging was a problem, but that Greta wasn't a good enough dancer to keep up with everything that was going on. And she was missing points, and she'd go back like this, and maybe the shadow that was meant to come out of her breast was a bit off, or she'd move down and then the hand would slap her like seconds later. Whereas if you look at the VMA where people were saying that Britney Spears was copying Greta, she had the shadows too, but she hit every point. She didn't miss anything at all, and she didn't look confused. Whereas at times, especially during the rehearsals, not so much during the actual final, Greta missed those and she was completely out of place. But then there was a few things like it was very dark. And then another thing I think is if you're voting in this poll, you're automatically going to vote for someone who made the final. So like the fact that she didn't make the final is probably in people's minds, and maybe if she had reached the final, she'd have done better in the poll.
I just feel like SVT slightly botched her staging. In Iceland, it was amazing. And then in Sweden, it wasn't. And I think a lot of that is just the size of the stage, the fact that they panned out, so you were taken out of the fantasy world she created. Because in Iceland, it was just woman in front of screen, and that's all you saw. You didn't know everything outside of it. And in Sweden, we were aware this is it just didn't feel as otherworldly. It was more Swedish TV worldly. In any case, that's what we think. What do you think? Who had the best staging at Eurovision 2016? Was the thunder and lightning too much with the box and the blah blah? Did Dami Im slay the pack? Let us know here on Movie Vlogs.
And make sure to subscribe. You can do that down here.
And give us a thumbs up.
Please.
Yes.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.